Hey guys, it's Village Kev Talks here, and it's time for another Fuckboy of the Month. So this month's Fuckboy of the Month, we're going to call him Erik. So Erik and I met at a bar called Barracuda in the Chelsea neighborhood of New York City, in case anybody knows the area or is familiar with that bar. And I saw him from a distance, and he was very, very good looking. Like stereotypical tall, dark, and handsome guy. And I assumed he was like in his early, maybe to mid 30s. At the time I was 23. So like, I figured he was a decade older. I approached him, finally I had like the chutzpah to approach him. And we started talking and I found that he was actually twice my age. Literally exactly twice my age. He was 46, right? So at first I was like, damn, like this guy's twice my age, that's quite a bit. And I think for him he probably thought the same thing of like, wow, this guy's half my age. But we kept talking and we enjoyed each other's company. So it was like, why not just keep talking? Like nothing to lose, right? So we spent probably 2 hours just talking at this bar and we talked about real life things. Like it was just a nice, casual, charming conversation. He was very charming. He was really smart. He was a lawyer with the sexiest voice. He had kind of like this, I guess if you could combine like a surfer, California surfer voice with a lawyer's voice, kind of like a, I really like that. And, but he was so intelligent that it was just very sexy. Anyway, so keep talking, had a great time, whatever, and then it's time to go home. And he was really sweet. He was like, do you want me to walk you home? I've had very, very few men ever propose that, so I was like, wow, but it was really cold out. I was like, you don't have to do that. You know, hopefully I see you again. We go home and separately, and he texts me that night. It's like, I really enjoyed hanging out with you. Would you like to get dinner with me and see a movie tomorrow? And again, I am totally into it because despite the huge age difference, he's really cool, and it's not every day that I've met a guy who's like, let's hang out the next day. Typically, they stall, and it's a lot of texting, and it's obnoxious, so I was like, I like this. He knows what he wants, right? So the next day we meet up, we have a great date, again, thoughtful, charming, smart, all those things. And then for the next, I think like 4 weeks consecutively, in a row, every weekend, he says, let's meet up, let's have dinner. And it was just really great. And that was the first time, and sadly the last time, up until like, at least for now, that I've met a guy who is so, has his shit together and is interested in meeting consistently, and there's no like red flags. The only thing that was a little off to me was that I could never read him fully, and I assume maybe it's because he was a lawyer, that he just wasn't as like sensitive or emotional or expressive as I am. So he just always had a poker face. I never really knew what he was thinking. But beyond that, hanging out with him was cool, it was fun, and it was like, it was always an adult date. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like we went to get pizza. It's not like he was childish. Like, it was always very mature. And at least if nothing else, I'm actually grateful that I had that experience because it's the last time it's happened. That first and last time, I guess, that I could have sophisticated, mature dates with someone the way that you see in like a movie. You know, and on a side note, I feel like maybe that sounds pathetic, but I feel like for gay men, or at least for me as a gay person, that was something that I always longed for growing up, but I kind of felt wasn't possible. So to experience it, I'm just glad, if nothing else, that I was able to. So anyway, then I go away for 2 weeks to Europe, and I'm excited to go to Europe, but in my mind, I'm like, I have this guy that I'm hanging with when I come back. I come back, and I'm like, hey, what are you up to? Hope everything has been great. And he's like, oh, I have friends visiting. So I'm a little busy, but I'll let you know when I'm no longer hanging out with them. I was like, okay, cool. You know, I'm not going to bother him while his friends are there. A week or two go by. And then I reach out again because I haven't heard from him. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? And he's like, oh, I'm traveling wherever. I'm like, okay, cool. Another week or two goes by. And at this point, it's the only time since meeting him that I haven't seen him for more than like a week or two. So it's kind of weird. It's like there was this chemistry going, and then now this guy's kind of disappeared, and he's not being proactive like he was then. So I'm just kind of confused, and I'm like, what's happening? Did he lose interest? Like, what's going on? Or is he just really busy? And so I reach out again, don't hear back, right? So at this point, I get the hint, like, he's just not interested, right? And then, I don't know, like a few days later or something, I think I had a bad day at work. I was just annoyed, and I was thinking about him, and I was annoyed that he became another disappointment of a guy who couldn't just be like, this is why I'm not into it, or this happened, or whatever. And so I reach out, and I'm like, listen, like, clearly you're not interested, but I really would have appreciated if you just like talked to me, adult to adult, about what your feelings were and why you weren't interested in it. And he responds with this essay, like a million text messages, so condescending. Nobody's ever been that condescending to me ever. And I was just kind of in shock that somebody like was holding this in, and everything was just so judgmental, I guess. And he was just like, you're too young, you just don't understand how this works, and the age difference is just too vast, and there's no way this could work. And you know, we weren't even dating, like we were just hanging out. Like, it's not like we're in a relationship, but it's because you're so young, you don't understand. And I'm just like, are you fucking serious? Because I didn't think we were getting married that next Sunday. We're two people who are attracted to each other, who have enjoyed each other's company, and we were hanging out consistently at a certain point, and there was clearly a romantic interest on both sides. You know when it's there, you feel it. So I'm just like, I'm not delusional, and I don't think that has anything to do with age, that I'm interested in you. And the other thing about the age thing is, like, if you don't want to date somebody who is a lot older or younger than you, you're totally allowed to. That's totally valid. But you knew my age from the start. My age didn't suddenly fluctuate after getting to know you that first time. It just threw me off that somebody who's planning all these dates with you has now suddenly completely dropped off. It would have been different if like I planned each one and like he didn't seem that interested. And that wasn't the case. So I, as I typically do, killed him with kindness. I'm sorry that you feel this way, and I just really liked you. You're really cool, but you know, I'm not delusional about the circumstances. I just really liked talking to you and getting to know you, and then it succeeded. He felt bad, and he was like, maybe I was a little defensive. You know, maybe we can be friends and go to lunch. And I was like, yeah, whatever. The funny thing is, a few years later, I saw him at another bar, and I was drunk, as that tends to be a consistent theme with these fuckboy the month videos, that there's a drunk element. And I saw him and I was like, I have to say something. And I know that a normal person probably wouldn't, but like, I don't give a fuck. And remember when Carrie Bradshaw in Sex and the City went to Berger's friends to tell them about how he broke up with her and posted it? Here's a reminder.
Look, I don't want to drag you into this, but Berger broke up with me on a Post-it.
So it was just like that, except I went straight to the horse's mouth. I went straight to the guy, and he tried to like dodge me out of his vision, but I could tell that he saw me. And I just kind of waited there until he saw me. Again, killed with kindness. I was very, elegant. I was like, hi, how are you? And I made sure to mention all my recent accolades, like the fact that I had my own apartment finally at that point, and I had a much better job than when I met him, and so I was like, yeah, things are really great. This is happening. And then we finally started kind of talking about the dating that never happened. And I basically told him, like, look, like, it's just really sad how you handled it, because the reality is, it's ironic that you kept harping on this age difference, and at the end of the day, I kind of handled it more like an adult than you did. It was like, you're right, and you're a quality boy, and it was just too much of an age difference, and you'll learn once you're older. And I was like, okay, whatever. And so I basically like made it clear. I kind of shamed him, and I know you're not supposed to shame other gay men, but I feel like I can make an exception for this guy. I live for those moments where you see jerks like that in public again, because you get to remind them. It's kind of like the universe's way of reminding them, I feel, that maybe you shouldn't treat people like shit, because you never know who you're going to see again, and who you're going to run into, who you're going to see at a job interview. And so I kind of like love that moment. and I still see him here and there at bars, and it's just, I love it. It's always like a reminder to him of like, oh, this is the kid that I was like addicted to. I love it. Catch you next time.